Today we'll see about serial communication. Basics of serial communication. Computer transfer data in two ways. One is parallel and serial. In parallel data transfer, the data is sent a byte or more at a time simultaneously on multiple lines. Between the sender and the receiver, there are multiple lines. Simultaneously, the data is going to be sent on the multiple lines. This is called as the parallel data transfer. So this parallel data transfer is used whenever the device is only few feet away. For example, if I'm transferring the data from computer to the printer, it can be done using the parallel data transfer. So here, since the data is transmitted on multiple lines, the data transmission rate is high. So in case of parallel data transfer, the data transmission rate is high. So the disadvantage is that, since you require the multiple lines connecting the sender and the receiver, the cost involved in case of the parallel data transfer is more. Coming to the serial data transfer, in case of serial data transfer, the data is sent one bit at a time on a single line. So between the sender and the receiver, there is a single line, and on the single line, one bit by bit, the data is sent. So the serial transfer is usually used whenever the device is located many meters away. So if the computer wants to send the data to another computer which is far away, in that case we can use the serial data transfer. So since in serial data transfer we are transmitting one bit at a time, the data transmission rate is slower. But here the cost, since there is only one path between the sender and the receiver, the cost involved is less in case of the serial data transfer. Not only that, since in serial data transfer, can be used to send the data from one city to another city, we can use the telephone lines to send the data from the sender to the receiver. So in 8051, the 8051 has the built-in serial communication capability. So we are seeing now about the serial communication. Since in serial communication, the data is transmitted bit by bit, at the transmitting end, the byte of the data must be converted into serial bits. This is done using the parallel in serial out shift register. Similarly, at the receiving end, the serial bits has to be packed into a byte. So to do that, we are having a serial in parallel out shift register which is used to receive the serial data and pack them into a byte. When we are using the serial data communication, when the distance is short, the digital signal can be transferred on a simple wire and requires no modulation. But if the distance is very large, then the data has to be transferred over the telephone line. Whenever we are transmitting the data on the telephone line, in that case, the data, that is zeros and ones, must be converted into audio tones. This conversion is performed by a device called as modem. Modem means modulator or demodulator. So the modulator means, so modem, that is the modulator, at the sending end it converts the bits, that is zeros and ones, into audio tones. At the receiving end, the demodulator demodulates the audio tones into zeros and ones. So this is about the modem. So in serial data communication, it uses two methods, synchronous method and the asynchronous method. In synchronous method, the data is transferred block at a time, and in asynchronous method, a data is transferred a byte at a time. A byte means a single character of data is transferred at a time. Okay, so in asynchronous method, the data is transmitted one byte at a time, and in synchronous method, the data is transmitted a block at a time. So in market, there are special ICs available for serial communication. They are called as UART, Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter, and USART, Universal Synchronous Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. So for serial communication in 8051, the 8051 has a UART, built-in UART present in 8051. We'll see about the UART later. So the next, the difference between simplex and the duplex data transfer. So if the data can be transmitted, it can be transmitted or received, but not both, is called as the simplex transmission. The data can be transmitted or it can be received, but not both. It is called as the simplex transmission. So for example, transmitting the data from computer to the printer is the simplex communication. The data is just transmitted. So from the printer, it is not going to receive any data. Computer is not going to receive any data. So it is the simplex transmission. So for duplex means if the data can be transmitted and also received, it is called as the duplex transmission. If the data can be transmitted and received both, then it is called as the duplex transmission. So in duplex transmission, we are having two types, half duplex and full duplex. If the data is transmitted one way at a time, it is referred to as half duplex. So that is nothing but sender sends the data, later only the receiver can send the data. Together both the sender and the receiver cannot send the data together. So that is nothing but the half duplex. So there is only one channel or one transmission path between the sender and the receiver. Either the sender can send the data or receiver can send the data and the other party can receive the data. That is the half duplex. For example, you can take the example of a walkie-talkie. Whenever one person is speaking, so he speaks, later he says over, then only the other person can speak. That is the half duplex data transfer. So full duplex means the data can go both the ways at a time. So that is called as the full duplex. So in full duplex communication or data transfer, there is a separate path between the sender and the receiver to send and the receive. So for that, so simultaneously the data can be sent both by the sender and the receiver. So the example I can take as the telephone system, where I can send the data and also I can receive the data simultaneously. So the figure shows the simplex, half duplex and full duplex data transfer. In simplex transfer, the transmitter just sends the data and receiver receives the data. In half duplex communication, both the sender and receiver can send and receive the data but not simultaneously, because there is only one channel to send the data between the sender and the receiver. So because of which either the sender can send the data, later you can receive the data. That is half duplex. Full duplex, between the sender and the receiver there is a separate path to send and receive the data, and hence so there is separate path to send and receive the data, and hence both the sender and the receiver can send and receive the data simultaneously. Asynchronous serial communication means that the data is transmitted a single byte at a time or a character at a time. So it's a character oriented transmission. So since in serial communication, whatever the data is received by the receiver, it consists of just zeros and ones. It is difficult to judge the data, and hence A set of rules must be agreed between the sender and the receiver. So that is called as a protocol. A protocol has to be set between the sender and the receiver so that the receiver knows when the data begins and when the data ends. Such rule is called as the protocol. Okay. A protocol is a set of rules agreed by both the sender and the receiver on how the data is packed, how many bits constitute a character, and when the data begins and when the data ends. So that protocol has to be agreed between the sender and the receiver. So in asynchronous serial data transmission, which is a character oriented transmission, in that transmission, each character is placed between the start and the stop bits. A single character is placed between the start and the stop bit. This is called as framing. So this is called as framing. The start bit is always 1 bit, but the stop bit can be 1 or 2 bits. So since I say character, to represent the character, the ASCII representation is used. So in the earlier days, the ASCII representation to represent a character, 7 bits were to be used. But now each character is represented in ASCII system using 8 bit. So since initially 7 bits were used, in that case the stop bit is used to be 2 bits and the start bit is used to be 1 bit. So 7 bit character plus 1 start bit plus 2 stop bit is going to be totally 10 bits in one frame. But now, so in the ASCII character is represented with the 8-bit representation. So now we are using 8-bit character and 1 start bit and 1 stop bit. Totally a frame makes a total of 10 bits. Okay. The start bit, whenever I say start bit, it has to be always a 0, and whenever I say the stop bit, it has to be 1. The picture represents the framing for the ASCII character A, capital A. The capital A is represented by the capital A is represented by the 8-bit binary value. The 8-bit binary value is 41. Between okay, so 41, it is represented by the 41, where 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 1, it is the 8-bit ASCII A. So the ASCII A, so to form a framing, I should have an initial start bit. Okay, so initially at the D0 bit, before sending the D0 bit, I should send the start bit. The start bit is always, it has to be a 0, so the start bit is made as the 0. So next I am having the 8-bit ASCII A, so followed with the stop bit. Okay, so this is the stop bit. The stop bit is it is always has to be 1. A 1 is present at the end following the D7 bit. Okay, so the 8-bit is packed between the start bit and the stop bit. So always the transmission begins with the start bit followed with the D0, the LSB. Then the rest of bits will be transmitted later until D7. Later the one stop bit, that is one high, is transmitted, indicating the end of the character. Okay, so initially whenever we are not transmitting any data, the signal is high and it is referred to as a mark. Whenever the transmission is over, the signal goes low and it is called as the space. So this is whenever the data is not being transmitted, the signal is high and it is called as the mark, and when the data transfer is over, the signal becomes low and then it is called as the space. So this is the framing for the ASCII character A. Okay, the adding of start and the stop bit. For example, if I'm adding one start bit and one stop bit for an 8-bit character, that is two extra bit for each 8-bit character we are adding, it results in an overhead of 25%. That is, we are having two extra bits for each 8 characters. So that is 2 by 8. So I can make it as 2 by 8 is nothing but it is 1 by 4, it's equal to 25%. Okay, so adding of two extra bits for each 8 characters results in an overhead of 25%. Okay, so in some systems, to maintain the data integrity, that is nothing but whenever sender sends the data, so a protocol will be set, so saying that will maintain the integrity by using a odd parity or the even parity, so that at the receiver, the if any errors occurs, that error can be detected at the receiver. So that to maintain that data integrity, a parity bit is added in the character byte in the data frame. That extra bit added is called as the parity bit. The parity bit can be an even parity or it can be an odd parity. This parity bit, it is used to detect the errors if any occurs in while transmission. Okay, so in case of odd parity, the total number of ones in the data including the parity bit has to be odd. So in case of even parity, the number of ones in the data including the parity bit has to be even. So the extra parity bit is added to the data to maintain the data integrity. So coming to the data transfer rate, that is in serial data communication, the data transfer rate is specified in terms of bits per second, BPS. So the rate of data transfer is specified in terms of bits per second. We also use one more terminology called as baud rate, which indicates or which is defined as the number of signal changes per second. So this is used in modem terminology, the baud rate. Usually the data transfer rate is specified in bits per second, BPS. Baud rate is nothing but number of signal changes per second. Sometimes the baud rate is also used to indicate the data transfer rates. Next we'll see about RS-232 standards. Okay, so if I take an example of a computer, I want to connect a computer to a microcontroller. How we are doing the connection? The connection is done with the RS-232 cable. Okay, so this RS-232 is nothing but to connect any computers to the microcontroller, because the computer is developed by many manufacturers and also the microcontroller is developed by many manufacturers. So there should be some interfacing standard how to connect them. So that interfacing standard is nothing but the RS-232. So the RS-232 cable is used to connect any DTE. The transmitter is called as the DTE, data transmission equipment, and the receiver is called as the DCE, data communication equipment. To connect the DTE to the DCE, we are using the RS-232 cable. The DTE can be from any manufacturer and DCE can be from any manufacturer. So to maintain the compatibility between the two equipments, the RS-232 cable is used. That is nothing but RS-232 is set as an interfacing standard. Okay, so this is set by the Electronics Industries Association, EIA, in 1960. So it is an interfacing standard set by Electronics Industries Association in 1960. The RS-232 standard protocol, it is basically used for serial communication. It is used for connecting the computer and its peripheral devices to allow serial data exchange between them. Okay, so in previously if you see, to connect your desktop, that is to connect printer to the CPU, the RS-232 cable was used. To connect the monitor to the CPU, the RS-232 cable was used. So now usually the printers will be having the USB cables. Okay, so in earlier days the RS-232 cable is used to connect the peripheral devices to the computer. Okay, so in RS-232 standards, we are saying the sender as the data transmission equipment, and the receiver is called as the data communication equipment. Okay, so the RS-232 is used for connecting the DTE, data transmission equipment, and the data communication equipment. Okay, so the RS-232 standard was developed earlier than TTL, earlier than the invention of the TTL voltage levels. Okay, transistor logic levels. So and hence the input and output voltage levels of RS-232 are not compatible with the TTL. In TTL logic, a 0 is represented with a 0 volt, a 1 is represented with a 5 volts. So that input output voltage levels are not used in case of the RS-232. In RS-232, a 1 is represented by, so a 1, it is represented by -3 to -25 volts. 0 is represented by, a 0 bit is represented by +3 to +25 volts. So the in between range -3 to +3 is undefined. Okay, so so if I want to connect the computer with to the microcontroller using RS-232 cable, so the RS-232 cable so gives the voltage levels for 0 between the +3 to +25, and for 1 it gives the voltage levels between -3 to -25. But our microcontroller, so for microcontroller, 0 is represented with a 0 volt and 1 is represented with the +5 volts, and hence so the RS-232 is voltage levels are not compatible with the TTL voltage levels. So hence to connect the RS-232 to microcontroller, I cannot directly connect the RS-232 cable to the microcontroller. So the voltage levels, that is RS-232 voltage levels, has to be converted into the TTL voltage levels. So this conversion is done by the voltage converters such as MAX 232 or MAX 233. The MAX 232 or MAX 233 are the voltage converters, are also called as the line drivers, which are used to convert the TTL voltages to RS-32 voltages and vice versa. Okay, so this is about the RS-232 standard. Figure shows the RS-232 connector. So this is the RS-232 connector, so which is also called as the DB25. Totally there are 25 pins are there. So this is the pin number 1 to 13, from below pin number 14 to 25. Totally there are 25 pins are there in RS-232 connector. So each pin is having a particular function. So in the table for each pin the description is given. So just you can look into the description of each pin. Okay, so in RS-232 DB25 connector, since all the pins are not used, the IBM introduced a new DB9 version which can be used for serial IO standard. Instead of 25 pins, it is just having the 9 pins which can be used for serial input output communication. Okay, so the figure shows the DB9 connector. So each the above line it's having the pin numbers from 1 to 5. The below it is having the pin numbers from 6 to 9. The pin number 1 it is called as data carrier detect DCD. Pin number 2 is received data, transmit data. Pin number 3 is transmit data. Pin number 4 is data terminal ready. Pin number 5 is signal ground. Pin number 6 is data set ready, and pin number 7 is request to send. Pin number 8 is clear to send, and pin number 9 is ring indicator. So this is the pin description for each pin in the DB9 connector. Next we'll see how to connect 8051 to RS-232. So we all know that 8051 is having two pins for serial communication, RxD and TxD. So the two pins are receive data and transmit data. These two pins are part of the port 3 group. Port 3.0, that is port 3 bit 0 is the TXD pin, and port 3 bit 1 is the RxD pin. Okay, so these pins are TTL compatible. Therefore, these pins cannot be directly connected to the RS-32. They require a line driver to make them RS-232 compatible. The line driver used is called as the MAX232, or we can also use MAX233. So first we'll see about MAX232. MAX232, it is a line driver. Also it is called as the voltage converter, which is used to convert RS-232 voltage levels to TTL voltage levels and vice versa. This MAX232 works with only one power supply, that is plus 5 volts. The MAX232 is having two sets of line drivers for transferring and receiving the data. The line drivers used for transferring the data is called as T1 and T2. The line drivers used for receiving the data are called as R1 and R2. So we'll see that in the figure shows the MAX232 IC. MAX232 IC, it's having two pairs of transmitters and receivers. That is transmitters T1 and T2, receivers R1 and R2. So MAX232 IC, in the figure it has shown the TTL side and RS232 side. Which TTL side has to be connected to the microcontroller and RS232 side has to be connected to the DB9 connector. Okay. So at the side here I am having the diagram. So I am having the diagram of how to connect the 8051 to 8051 to RS232, that is DB9 connector via MAX32. So already in the diagram it is given which is the TTL side and which is the RS232 side. So similarly you need to do the connection. Okay. So here transmit data, so TXD line. So in TXD line, so the transmit data line port 3.1, the microcontroller is going to transmit the data. So since the microcontroller is going to transmit the data, so this line is to be connected to the RS232 line. So the RS232 and TTL voltages are not compatible, and hence the MAX232 is used to convert the TTL voltage levels to RS232 voltage levels. Okay. So because of which the TXD line of the microcontroller, it is given to the T1 in of MAX232. Okay. The T1 out of MAX232, that is the pin number 14, which is on RS232 side. It is connected to the pin number 2 of the DB9 connector. Pin number 2 is nothing but receive, RxD. I am transmitting the data. So and hence the RS232 connector is receiving the data. So this pin number 2 is nothing but it is the RxD line. So pin number 2 is RxD line. TXD line 8051 is transmitting the data and RS232 is receiving the data. So okay, so the RS232 in turn connected to the data communication equipment terminal. Okay, so transmit and receive. So the transmitting is TTL, so hence it is connected to the TTL side of the MAX232. Receiving, the MAX232 converts TTL to RS232, and RS232 signal is connected to the RxD pin of RS232 cable. Okay. So now, so the RxD line port 3.0 is the RxD line. RxD means receive the data. The data from the RS-232 cable has to be received by the AT51. So whatever the data given by the RS-232 is compatible with the are not compatible with the TTL voltages. So we are using max 232 in between. Okay. So receive data, RxD is receive data. The data from the RS-232 cable is received by the AT51. Okay. So the pin number 3 is nothing but it is the TXD line. Okay. So pin number 3 is the TXD line of the DB9 connector, the TXD line of the DB9 connector. It is connected to the pin number 13, that is the receiver 1 input. Okay, the receiver 1 output, that is nothing but the pin number 12. It is connected to the RxD pin of the microcontroller. Okay, so that I can say that the T1 in of the Max 232 is connected to the P3.1, that is the TXD input of AT51. Pin number 11 is on the TTL side. Pin number 14 of Max 232, which is on the RS232 side, it is connected to the pin number 2, that is the RxD line of the DB9 connector. Okay. Similarly, I can say here receive data. For receive data, pin number 3 line of RS232 connector, that is DB9, it is connected to the pin number 13 of R1 input of Max 232, and the R1 out of Max 232, that is pin number 12, it is connected to the port 3.0, that is RxD pin of AT51. This is how we are connecting the AT51 to the RS232 via MAX 232 IC. Okay. So Max 232. So we are having one more IC, that is called as Max 233. In Max 232, we are using 4 capacitors. It requires 4 capacitor in the range of 1 to 22 microfarad. Okay. So that is in Max 232. In Max 232, Max 233, so the no capacitors are required, and hence it saves the board space. Okay, so Max 230 will not use any capacitor. See, the function is similar to the Max 232. It is also having the 2 sets of line drivers. But if you can observe the pin configuration between Max 232 and Max 233, they are not same. Max 232 is having different pin configuration, and Max 233 are having the different pin configuration. So accordingly, similarly as I explained for Max 232, similarly the connection is done for the Max 233. The T1 in the T1 input of Max 233 is connected to the TXD line of the AT51 microcontroller. The T1 out of Max 233 is connected to the RxD pin of DB9 connector. Okay. Similarly, pin number 3 of RS232, which is the TXD line, which is the TXD line, it is connected to the R1 input of the Max 233, and pin number 3, which is the R1 out of the Max 233, it is connected to the RxD line of the AT51 microcontroller. This is how we can connect the AT51 to the RS232 via the MAX 233 or 232. This is a picture which shows how to connect the computer to the microcontroller. The computer is connected to the microcontroller using DB9 connector. So this is the DB9 connector. Using DB9 connector, so the microcontroller, we are connecting the computer to the microcontroller. First, using DB9 connector, we are giving it to the MAX 232 IC to convert the RS232 signals into the TTL compatible signals, and from there we are connecting it to the microcontroller. This is the microcontroller. So this is how or where we are using the RS-232 connectors to connect to the microcontroller. Thank you.